Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room, here with you on a post-first round NFL Draft Friday, a day in which we actually may see our temperatures reach above sub-zero temperatures here in La Crosse and give us something of a spring day. So it's very exciting this morning here on the Sports Carnival. We're very excited, I should say, and want to thank our friends over at Contractor Supply, both in Baraboo and West Salem, for joining the program. Guys, glad to have you aboard. Matt, lots of ground to cover today. First round of the NFL Draft provided surprises, multiple trades, and a winning bet by me over you, in that there were not 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the NFL Draft, let alone the top 10 of the NFL Draft. Only 3 quarterbacks were taken, so that was awesome. Bryce Young also does become the first overall player selected out of Alabama. That seemed about as big of a lock as there was from a betting market perspective. Last night on ESPN, it was minus 5,000 that Bryce Young was going to go number 1. So things worked out in some ways the way that we kind of anticipated, or the way that I did, and in other ways, not even close, as we saw a precipitous fall from Will Levis, who we'll talk about. Hendon Hooker didn't even get invited as one of the top prospects in the NFL Draft, so that was a pretty good sign that he wasn't going to be amongst those drafted. The Packers took a defensive player, which is pretty much on par with what they've been doing for the last 20-plus years. And the Bears did get an offensive tackle, even though it wasn't the guy that a lot of people thought the Bears would take. So we had a big night of NFL draft fun, and it was a good hang down at the Recov. By the way, we had a bunch of P1s, Kyle Wood and Jason Breacher and Jeremy P12 Foreman, and others came over to hang out. So it was a great night, and we've got, like I say, a lot of ground to cover this morning, a lot to unpack, man.
Oh, sure. That's a lot for me to digest right off the bat. I would throw out this to you that I would say both you were wrong and I was wrong. Foreman, unfortunately, was right because he's the one that went with 3. You went with 2 with the quarterbacks on the picks.
I went under 4.
Well, you picked 2.
Yeah, but I went under 4.
Okay,
That was our bet.
Okay.
Our bet was under 4.
I'll just say that
Yes.
Foreman got it.
Jason Breacher had 3.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, Breacher had 3. Foreman had 3. So that was where we were at. It was under 4. I thought that maybe 2 would go. We did see the third, Anthony Richardson to the Colts. Incredible pick. Yep. Incredible pick. I love that for Indianapolis. Yep. That division, by the way, is going to be pretty fun to watch.
Fun to watch. Yep. And then Joe brought up Hercules, the pick the Packers made with the Van Ness kid. So that was awesome to see. I don't know if that's the way they want to go. Obviously, Gary's coming back from that injury. I was trying to figure out where else it was just so much to go on. The Lions really fucked up, in my opinion, Dave. So we have a lot to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Lions made stupid moves, man. Drafting a running back when they had no reason to draft one. The linebacker they got, or the cornerback they got from Iowa, some people seem to like this guy, others don't. The Green Bay Packers and the drafting of Lucas Van Ness, defensive end from Iowa, who did not live up to his potential at Iowa, by the way. He didn't start there. You realize that. Lucas Van Ness was not a starting player for Iowa.
Well, he's a work in progress.
Okay, but the number 13 pick, so definitely not a complete prospect. But there are a lot of different thoughts on the grading aspect of this, at least in a snapshot. Go to our Twitter feed. We're getting a ton of action on this thing already. Go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney and give me your grade of the Packers selection of Lucas Van Ness with that number 13 pick. We've also got that poll question for you on our Facebook group page. If you're a member of the Facebook group page, you can take the poll question there. We'll start to give out some early results as we get going here on the morning program. But it was like I say, as always, an interesting first round. The first round of the NFL Draft is what I feel is the most fun, and probably most people do too. The second round can be kind of cool based upon who's still there. I remember Geno Smith, much like Will Levis, sitting, getting picked on day 2 by the Jets. But the first round just gives so much excitement, so much hope, so much possibility, except for if you're the Detroit Lions when you do what you do. But for most teams, hope, possibility really is what the NFL Draft's first round is about. And it was a really fun one, I thought. The Green Bay Packers taking Lucas Van Ness. Listen, we'll see how this works. But I did think it was funny also. The Jets did not take an offensive player. So Aaron Rodgers, who never had an offensive player taken in the first round except for Jordan Love, was also not given an offensive player in the first round by the Jets. I thought it was really interesting to see Pittsburgh come up there and jump, switch places with New England there, take an offensive tackle that perhaps the Jets would take. Aaron Rodgers has got himself a real challenge. I know this guy thinks he's just so fucking great. And at 40 years old, he's going to somehow come and light Broadway on fire. But the Jets had the 21st rated pass protection unit last year in the NFL. Okay, simple math, there's only 32 NFL teams. That's not great. So Aaron who we know is not nearly as mobile, as accurate, as strong-armed as he used to be. He's going to have to really work around a Jets offensive line that is far from complete at this particular point. I thought the Jets also missed by not trying to get an offensive lineman, man. It's going to be awesome for Aaron in New York.
I love how
buddy.
you brought up Aaron Rodgers, because I was wondering how much Will Levis thought he was Aaron Rodgers going through that entire first round, just sitting there waiting, hoping his name was going to get called the entire time, and it never happened. So we're going to see what happens in the second round with him. Obviously, Hendon Hooker, like you said, still out there, excuse me, as well. The first round is always going to be exciting to watch. That's usually where the teams try to get like that 1-star or 2-star athletes, depending on if you hit them right correctly with your drafts. The second round, third round, fourth round, that's where you build your team. So that's why it can always be interesting for me, where I love to see how teams plug their holes.
Rock and roll, man. All right, well, listen, let's step aside. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get into the Packers drafting of Van Ness. Like I said, we've got our poll question up on our Twitter feed as well as our Facebook group page. We'll talk about the Bears taking offensive tackle Darnell Wright from Tennessee. Get Matt's thoughts on that. If you want to join in, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch is the way to go. Rob Dog's also given us a complete divergence from NFL football, local sports. We'll see. Stay tuned. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
At the Little Doobie's Pizza, we kill 2 stone birds with 1 rock every time with our hand-rolled Doobie Deluxe for only $49.95. That's a street value of over $75. No way! The Doobie Deluxe is a hand-rolled 18-inch pizza that will blow your bone-resent mind. Whoa! Topped with the sausage, black olives, extra cheese, and about a ½ ounce of the finest kush at east side of San Bernardino.
Dude, give me another slice.
Because at Little Doobie's Pizza, we put a little TLC in our THC.
And right now, for a limited time only, get an order of crazy cannabis bread for only $10 with an order of a Doobie Deluxe at the street value of over $22.50.
You know what we said at the Little Doobie's Pizza? Why get stoned then eat when you can do both at the same time?
Doobies.
I love Little Doobie's Pizza. It's so good. It just makes me hungrier, though. That's the only problem. Welcome back, Sports Carnival. Rolling on from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recov. And again, if you're a La Crosse native, you got to make your way down to the Recovery Room Friday. We've got our traditional and spicy gyro still on special. Yesterday, Yoshi in the kitchen hooked up a really great hot ham and cheese sandwich special, which was great. You never know what our specials could be outside of the norms, because we have one of the most creative kitchen staffs in the entire city of La Crosse. If you're hungry today, if you want to sit out on our patio, I'd love to host you. I'll be behind the bar with Matt there starting at 11 this morning, and it's going to be a great day. You mentioned 70-plus degrees. I don't give a fuck. I'll be a weatherman for a moment. This has been the longest, coldest winter, and I know it didn't seem as deeply cold for a while that I've ever experienced in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'd say it was the weather was definitely crazier than the draft yesterday. That's for sure.
I don't know. I thought the draft gave some fireworks, man.
Well, it had some fireworks, especially with the Houston Texans, obviously. But I'm just looking for today. Hopefully it does hit 70 degrees. We can open up the umbrella, sit on the patio, and serve some people out there and have a good day.
Yeah, exactly. Houston, by the way, if you did not watch the draft last night, had the number 2 pick in the draft. The Arizona Cardinals were sitting at 3. The Texans drafted C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, a guy that had been talked about as falling down draft boards recently, but was still the pick for the Texans. Apparently, that was the subterfuge that was really going on with that. Will Anderson, the defensive end the outside linebacker from Alabama, was selected 3rd after Houston traded up and took the Arizona Cardinals number 3 pick. So they had the number 2, number 3 pick. Quarterback Anthony Richardson from Florida, guy that reminds us a lot of a Cam Newton-esque type player, possibly a Lamar Jackson-esque type player, went to play for the Indianapolis Colts, who are looking to reboot this franchise. They'd been going through your brother's former team, Matt. The Colts had been going through a who's who of old-ass quarterbacks, from Phillip Rivers to Matt Ryan, and you understand
a lot of band-aids.
Well, you understand when the Andrew Luck retirement kind of catches you by surprise.
Oh, yeah.
You're not necessarily ready to rebound from that. Nobody would. Andrew Luck was a generational talent. But Anthony Richardson provides, I think, the Colts an opportunity to really reboot their franchise in a way that historically They've been one of the few teams lucky enough to do with Johnny Unitas, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and now Anthony Richardson. I mean, except for maybe, I don't know, the Green Bay Packers, and I'm trying to think of who else would really be in that mode for having great consecutive quarterbacks.
It's definitely not the Bears, my friend.
Well, no, the Indianapolis Colts, I'm just saying historically, they are one of the few
yeah.
lucky teams to have.
There's not very many. I mean, Montana and Young, I guess, but yeah.
And they weren't far enough apart, right? Like, I mean, Young was a backup to Montana. I'm just thinking in terms of generational talented quarterbacks, there have been few teams like the Packers to be lucky enough with Bart Starr, with Brett Favre, with Aaron Rodgers. And then you think about a team like the Colts, again, back when they were in Baltimore, Johnny Unitas, and then, of course, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and now Anthony Richardson. Look, we don't know what he'll be, and I don't want to go into a deep dive on the Colts. I'm just looking at this and saying, wow, Indianapolis, if Richardson does pop, could be one of those rare teams in the history of sports to have 4 generational type players for one franchise. I thought the draft was really great. I thought a couple of teams did themselves some incredible favors, including, I guess, the Seattle Seahawks getting a great cornerback in Devon Witherspoon. You know, I thought the Paris Johnson Jr. draft by the Arizona Cardinals as they went to 6 was pretty good.
Solid. Yep.
And then I thought that, I thought the Tennessee Titans possibly did a good job there. In the first 10 picks, it was hard to see anybody making a bigger splash than the Texans because they got into that 3rd spot overall. But I thought a few teams really did themselves, some pretty solid favors. Let's start with the Packers, though, because, of course, we spent a lot of our time here on the program, focusing on Packer football. Lucas Van Ness, number 13, picked by the Packers, linebacker out of Iowa. I mentioned this. He did not start at Iowa. At the same time, he was still really, really productive when he did come off the bench. He was a number 2 guy, kind of worked himself into a couple of different positions and situations. I know you mentioned Joe DeGuano, calling him Hercules. That's a pretty good description. This dude's ripped. And when I was on with ESPN's John Papadopoulos last night, I was looking at the ESPN draft predictor machine, and I told him, John and the audience, if the Packers didn't go tight end or wide receiver with that 13 pick, it looked like they would take not just a defensive player, but this guy, Lucas Van Ness, and they did. Matt, what are your thoughts about this pick? Because I want to get to the poll question as well, but what are your thoughts on the Packers taking Van Ness? Did you like it? Did you hate it? How'd this land on you?
I guess I'm with where a lot of the other, I guess, supposed, professionals are where he's got some room to grow. I believe that, but I think with the Rashawn Gary injury, it was not a bad pick for the Packers going forward. They did not go with the tight end that Joe brought up from Notre Dame.
He didn't even get drafted yesterday.
That was my point. So he's still on the board. So there's a solid pick there possibly for the Packers. The Packers do have 2 picks coming up in the 2nd round today. So we'll see how that goes. I think this kid's got some Pro Bowl talent, possibly. He's got room to grow. So it's just, he's got the athleticism. Let's just put it that way, which, I mean, it's not the worst pick in the world. I guess it's a B grade for me.
Okay. And I'm checking out our Twitter grade right now, or actually the Twitter responses. The question that I've got for you at the Sports Carney this morning is to grade the pick of Lucas Van Ness at number 13, 41.2%. We've got quite a few votes on this, 34 so far, and we're only a few minutes into the program. 41.2% of the voters say B, B+. 32% give this an A plus grade. 14.5% are giving this a D or an F, and 11.8%, almost 12%, say it's a C plus grade. I'd probably put it into that B plus grade as well, because you do have an injury concern with Rashawn Gary, and that's something to consider. You also don't know exactly what the ceiling is for this guy, considering he didn't start at Iowa. That does give me a little bit of a concern, but Iowa did have one of the best defenses in the entire country. So the fact that they might have worked this kid into a position where he was really effective and his stats kind of prove that, but yet didn't need to start him, that might be something also to take into consideration.
I guess I just wouldn't look too much into that. I guess
I didn't do deep of a dive on that. So I guess I would grade this a BB plus for right now. Again, we don't know anything about how this will really grade out, which is why these are kind of hyperbolic conversations for about the first 3 years of their career. You could have looked at Rashawn Gary's pick at number 13 a few years back and said, well, that was a bust, until last year, in which he really popped.
The Packers, the kid when he came out of Michigan, that kid was destroying at Michigan.
He way underperformed at Michigan. Are you kidding me? He was like not even good in his last year, and he didn't really do anything for the Packers for almost 3 seasons.
I have a completely different outlook on that from you. I guess, I mean, for me, the way he played at Michigan was, you knew he was going to come off the ball, the way he had the talent. And then obviously he didn't live up to his potential the first year, but that's usually what a lot of, first round rookies do have to go through that. I was just going to bring up the Facebook post or poll for you here, brother. Everybody's pretty much in agreement with you or me there. 90% has it a B B plus grade, 9% with an AA plus grade, and only 1% with a CC plus grade.
Yeah, it's for me with Rashawn. Again, this is what my exact point was. It's hard to tell what the grade is until you've got the first few years under your belt, because the first season, 2 seasons for Gary, they were not impressive. I mean, at all. He didn't play a lot. He was not good. Didn't get any numbers. Just he didn't pop at all. His first 2-3 seasons. Last year he did, and then he gets injured. So you can look at that pick now and say, wow, okay, that's not bad. This kid Van Ness, we'll wait and see how good he is. But I think for the moment, it feels like the Packers got a pretty good player, not necessarily a great player, a pretty good player. I am going to work this in here real quick because we're seeing Lucas Van Ness on our screen, and then I want to talk about the Bears. But before we get into that, I do want to tell Minnesota Viking fans like Neil Duda and the few that we might have watching, congratulations. Addison out of USC, I think is the best wide receiver in this class.
I think it's one of the stupidest picks in the draft.
Oh, God, nobody agrees with you. That's getting an A grade on every single draft roundup.
I'm not saying he's
everybody.
I'm not saying he's not a great talent. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what the Vikings did last year in their draft position, they were outscored and they still made the playoffs. They had an opportunity to go after a defender because their offense is still going to be solid. They
cut Adam Thielen. They don't.
Yeah, but I mean, they still have Justin Jefferson. They still have Cook. I mean, they still had some talent that they could go out there. They didn't even use Adam Thielen last year for the most part. My point being this is that they had a great offense for the most part. Their defense gave up too many points. They could have gotten another wide receiver, maybe down the road, maybe not as much talent as this, but they had an opportunity to add some talent to the defense, and I think they really missed on that spot, and that's just my opinion going forward because the Vikings still have that offense, but we'll see how that plays out myself as well.
Wow. Okay. So listen, everybody's got that, we all have opinions on this. The Vikings, do you think they made a good pick with Justin Jefferson?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, cool. Because I kind of think this is like that. And when you think about what Justin Jefferson, he can't be the only player on Minnesota's offense. Like Dalvin Cook, excuse me, we don't know what that's going to be about, right? Like, I mean, what do they do at running back? So they've already kind of moved off of Cook in that respect. They've cut Thielen. KJ Osborne's contract comes up at the end of the season. Minnesota desperately needed to make sure that they had another offensive weapon.
Defense, though, too, my friend. That's my point.
You can address that defense, though, later, especially, I mean, when you have a player like Addison who has the ceiling of like a Justin Jefferson. I mean, this guy is, by many respects, the most talented wide receiver in the draft. And that is something that I will wait to see on the field, but I think he is a really good player. I thought the Vikings did great. Now, look, again, we won't know about any of these things we did with Justin Jefferson year one, day one, but sometimes it can take a little while to figure it out. I think they did a great job in taking Addison. But again, this is why you're a Bears fan, and Bears fans, they like picks like this. Darnell Wright, offensive tackle. What do you think about this? I thought it was a decent move. I thought Skornowski or Skornowski or whatever the fuck his name is might have been a bit better of a prospect, considering that this guy's a right tackle that they might have to move around. But it seems like from most of what I've been reading this morning, this is graded as about a B plus move as well. How did it land with you, Bears fan?
For me, for the most part, and once again, I guess I'm more of a sports realist. I know that I have my sports loyalties to the Bears and everything else. I had to do a little bit more research on him to make sure I knew what exactly I was talking about. Will Anderson, who was drafted second overall, said he was probably the best tackle that he ever had to go up against last year. Let's see, Louis Reddick came out and said he might be the best tackle that came out in the draft, which I don't know how much I want to go about that. The Bears, I think, are going to keep him on the right side, and I think it's Braxton that they have on the left side, so we're going to give him room to develop. They went out and got what they got. They traded a pick, and they picked up a fourth-round pick in 24. They obviously didn't want Jalen Carter because the Eagles moved up and took him ahead of him. So, once again, I like the pick. Justin Fields needs some help on the offensive line, so this kid's a plug-and-play type of guy. We'll see if he turns out.
So, the Jalen Carter pick was fantastic by Philadelphia. That they have basically the entire Georgia defense now, which is awesome.
It's going to be scary to play against Philadelphia next year on defense, and Drew Rosenhaus did his job yesterday. That's for sure.
Really did well. Drew Rosenhaus,
his agent.
Yeah, I mean, I know who he is. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the Eagles and what they've done. Like Jalen Carter was going to get drafted no matter what in the top 10. But the Eagles, I think, did just like an incredible job. The Bears pick here 10 of Darnell Wright. I don't know if it was obvious they didn't want Carter. I don't think that the need for them was they already signed a linebacker here recently. So, going and getting another defensive player at that spot, I don't know. But this offensive tackle probably does. If he is what Louis Reddick or even Will Anderson said, one of the best tackles in college football last year, he probably does a lot to help the Bears out because Justin Fields needs to be protected. You mentioned the left side of the ball is kind of taken care of right now. It looks like they might have a left tackle that they can move forward with here. this could be a great pick for Chicago.
Mhm.
I mean, they need offense. They got DJ Moore, wide receiver. Now you put an offensive lineman here. I like it.
Yeah, I like it as well. Like you said, they picked up DJ Moore, so going forward, we'll see what they're going to do. It's just the kid. I hope he comes out and performs. The Bears haven't drafted an offensive tackle that for years, so it's sorry, I'm just not trying to get too long with. I just hope it works out well. I'm just still scared about what the Eagles did, brother, because they also went back and got Nolan Smith. So I'm just still I can't believe what the Eagles did. Like you said, they have the entire Georgia fucking defensive line.
When you say scared, what do you mean by scared?
By playing the Eagles, if Jalen Hurts lives up to his contract that he just signed, and by having
you're scared of like playing them,
playing against that defensive line and that offense, whoever plays the Eagles next year, I'd be a little timid. That's for sure.
Well, the Eagles are gearing up because they lost a lot, right?
Well, and they lost their coordinators, but they gained a lot of talent.
Sure, but they lost a lot of players too, because when you get into a Super Bowl, guys get paid
for sure.
Nature of the business. I think the Eagles, when you say scary, they're going to be scary good if, in fact, everything holds to form. Look, there's always going to be some, returning back to the mean when it comes off a Super Bowl year. There's always going to be a little bit, but Philadelphia had been in such a great spot because of the trades that they had made previously, getting rid of Carson Wentz, moving off of these things. This was just, for Philadelphia, I thought, a great draft. And again, Jalen Carter might have a lot of off-the-field issues, but do you know who he reminds me of? And I was seeing this just come to my mind's eye last night, especially when Philadelphia drafted him. You know who he reminds me of is Ndamukong Suh. And boy, will Eagles fans love, they, have some familiarity with Ndamukong Suh, but this guy reminds me a lot of Ndamukong Suh in that he's a big, burly defensive tackle, can get to your quarterback occasionally, really stuffs the run, and has moves for a defensive tackle that you just don't typically see. Like a guy like Aaron Donald, so much smaller than Jalen Carter and Ndamukong Suh are. And so because of that, his swim moves in different ways of being a defensive tackle, they just look so much different. But I think Jalen Carter, I know he had a bad pro day. I know he didn't have a good combine. I think that might have had something to do with the legal issues he was facing at the time. Like, am I going to be going to prison? Like, how are they going to be charging me for
two
this?
People also died in this
That's what I mean,
so,
reckless manslaughter or whatever it was. So I think that might have had a lot to do with why Jalen Carter wasn't as prepared, maybe as in shape as he could have been. And the other thing is this, and this is partly human nature. When you know for sure you are going to be a top 5, 10 NFL draft pick, there is some that will take their foot off the gas just a little bit, right? Like ease up. Big guys especially, it takes a lot to get those big bodies in motion and to stay in motion. So I think in certain cases, if you really know that you're going to be a top 10 pick, you might say, ooh,
well, he's been known to take a playoff here too, but I think that also does scare some people on the, up in management. Just is he going to be there all the time? Is his head in the game? Is he love the game as much as you want him to when you're drafting that high? I agree with what you're saying. I'm just going to go out there and said the greatest drafts that I saw yesterday, brother, were Seattle. The Eagles, obviously, we just got done talking about. I like what the Texans did, and I really like what the Cardinals did with their wheeling and dealing and their new GM. So they're setting themselves up.
I thought the Falcons drafting Bijan Robinson was a pretty good play, too. I know it's high for a running back, but Bijan Robinson looks a little bit like LaDainian Tomlinson. What I thought was really stupid was the Lions taking a running back. I couldn't believe that. And you know what? Their running back, too, was so surprised. He's like, I'm shocked that I got drafted here. So what was his name? Jamar Gibbs?
Jameer. They already have Gibbs. They already have DeAndre Swift on the roster, and they signed David Montgomery. And I don't understand, man, for as much as they built up for last season, going forward, they're still the fucking same old lines, it seems, Dave.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, if you're a Packer fan, you've got to be not too crestfallen about the way that things are going right now, because Aaron Rodgers isn't your quarterback, but that's okay. Jordan Love, I think, with an offensive line, with a defense, with a coach like LaFleur, is going to be mostly fine. I really do. I think he'll be mostly fine. I actually think that with the Packers drafting Lucas Van Ness and now seeing what they could possibly do in the second round with 2 picks, this could be a 10-7 team. This could be a 9-8 team. It could be an 8-9 team. If you're a Packer fan, that's got to be okay.
I'd be excited if I was a Packer fan, to be honest with you. I really would.
I kind of am. And a lot of it is the newness of things, right? Like, just because that's part of the fun of fantasy sports and, playing video games like Madden or NBA 2K. You get to trade players. You get to see how they might look in a different uniform. And for what it's worth, you could tell that was something that Aaron Rodgers was really enjoying when he had his introductory press conference with the Jets. Matt, Aaron Rodgers has never had any chance to really be wooed by another team, to go out there and have this experience. And while I think it's not going to work out like they think it will, because he's too old. You could tell how excited he was to have that opportunity too. So as a Packer fan, I am excited, and I hope that Packer fans are excited too, because there could be some really interesting things coming up day 2 in today's NFL draft. What picks do the Packers have in the second round? Can you check that out there real quick?
I'll look it up for you real quick. And we haven't even got to the other NFL news. Obviously, Lamar Jackson got paid yesterday. I know we're getting there. But yeah, there's just so much for us to get through. That's for sure.
We're getting there. There's a method to this madness.
I know that you're steering the ship, Captain.
Rob Dog's checking in here from Stoddard, and he's a Bears fan, of course, says, I'm loving this pick. I'm thinking you're talking about the offensive tackle from Tennessee, Darnell Wright, because it means helping protect Fields, and they figured out they've got to try to protect the quarterback for sure. And that wasn't something I don't think the Bears were going to overlook. I didn't know what they exactly would do. Would they stay pat, which they didn't. They actually moved back a teeny bit, right? Like, were the Bears at 10 originally?
They were at 1 to 9, and then they moved back to 10.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
The other thing with Wright is he was coached by Luke Getsy, the Bears offensive coordinator, in the Senior Bowl. So the Bears have a lot of familiarity with him as well. Right now, brother, the Packers have the 42nd pick and the 45th pick in the second round.
All right, so 42 and 45. So that's pick 10 and 13.
Yep.
In the second round. Okay,
well, minus one pick because the Miami Dolphins fucked it up, but yeah, you're close.
Okay. So yeah, you get whatever, pick 10 and 12 or something, 10 and 13 in the second round. Good. A lot of great prospects still on the board for the Green Bay Packers.
That Mayer kid from the tight end from Notre Dame could still be there, obviously. So
you know what? That's an interesting one. I want to take a look at that before we do that though, because I've got this ESPN draft predictor, so I'm going to leave it up for just a second because I'll change players and then we'll take a look at where Mayer could possibly go. I still think that's an interesting play for the Packers. I thought he might be an interesting play at 13, but apparently, again, these tight ends that we were talking about, possibly 3 going in the first round, not a thing. There was one, Dalton Kincaid from Utah, did get drafted in the first round, but this kid didn't. And I just want to put this up here because there were times in which I felt kind of bad for Will Levis having to just sit there because he's a good-looking kid. His entourage is a bunch of good-looking people around him. His mom, you can see sitting there to his right, and I'm assuming that's his girlfriend sitting to his left. I don't know. I saw a couple of different girls and around him might have been his sisters. Doesn't matter. But good-looking kid, good-looking entourage, and I felt bad for him having to sit there. What I do want to give Will Levis credit for is while he could look as confused as possible, he didn't look as mad as some of the other kids did in the past. Aaron Rodgers looked just downright fucking mad. Geno Smith was beyond perplexed. Will Levis, I think, had this confused look on his face for the most part, but he didn't seem as angry as I've seen some others. So I give him kudos for that. But brother, I think Will Levis was used a bit here in this draft process as a subterfuge, a smokescreen. You talked about it being the time for liars. The tape on Will Levis last year and some of the things that we were talking about, his compactness of a throw kind of reminded me of a Brady Quinn, just really robotic, really mechanical. There were things that just didn't seem to fit for Will Levis being a first-round quarterback, but there was all this smoke around. We just talked about it the other day. Will Levis possibly being the first overall draft pick. He went from 50-1 odds to be the first overall draft pick like a couple of weeks ago to 10-1 just a couple of days before the draft. So there was definitely something out there. I think Will Levis might have been an unwitting foil in the plans of these other teams because they didn't want to show their whole hand. Like Houston didn't want to tell you what they were doing, and nobody knew that they would do that 2-3 swap. I think Will Levis might have just been, like I said, an unwitting foil in the master plan of the NFL scouts and teams because obviously nobody wanted to take this kid in the first round because he wasn't a first-round quarterback.
Well, obviously Vegas got some information. That was one of the really cool things that I thought about this draft too, is because it's like really the first year that Vegas has really been another source of information for a lot of people. Just trying to find information, know where these kids are going up or down. So like you said, there were some smoke screens, a lot of lying going out there. I did not feel bad for this kid at all from everything that I was reading. His personality is very Johnny Manziel-esque. Some the management people out, draft people in charge were really scared of his attitude. Does he really love the game? The guy that I was most surprised in that is still sitting there is Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State.
That is a surprise.
That was a surprise to me.
That is a surprise.
That one surprised me more than anything. I think Levis, obviously, you have that draft where he might go here in the second round or if he falls later down in the drafts. But I guess to me, this kid, once he gets drafted, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He fucking better, like the Aaron Rodgers size, and then come out and want to play when he gets a chance to play.
Will Levis right now, according to ESPN's draft prediction machine, has the highest odds to go number 34 to Detroit. After that, number 37 to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Outside chance Pittsburgh at 32, right at the top of the second round. The Titans at 41 are a potential, and the Raiders at 38 might be in play there. It's going to be interesting for Levitz. I haven't heard anything about Johnny Manziel with him. What I heard about Levitz was, one, we didn't know about any of this until last night. Will Levitz was dealing with a toe injury, and that came up in the evaluation of his medicals. That, from what I heard this morning especially, was one of the things that scared a lot of teams away. The other things that I was talking about, it had nothing to do with this personality. I mean, from what I could tell, and again, I don't read into too much of that, TMZ side of the stuff, so I don't know, what that might or might not be, but his throwing motion, it's just not as natural. When you look at Anthony Richardson and some of these other guys, Stroud and even Bryce Young for sure, it's just a different motion. He reminded me a lot of Brady Quinn, who looked great in warm-up gear, right? Like Brady Quinn's a good-looking guy, really cut, really big, played at Notre Dame, had some great numbers. This just didn't feel right. Also, Will Levitz's decision-making felt like, on the field, felt like it was a little suspect. So we'll see. He'll get drafted in the second round for sure. I don't know if he plays right away, and maybe that's the best thing for him. He doesn't need to play right away. The tight end from Notre Dame, this Michael Mayer kid, this is going to be a hot prospect for today. He might be one of the first players to go off the board. So right now we're looking at the Raiders at 32. They might end up going for this kid. They ended up trading Darren Waller last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're this offseason to the New York Giants. So perhaps the Raiders at 32. Number 33, you got the Cardinals. They don't necessarily have a need specifically at tight end, but that's a pick. And then you've got Detroit. So Detroit, maybe they can fucking get something right here.
Yep.
Pick this kid up. They did get Hawkinson, so I don't know if that's a necessary need for them, right? But this would be another really good player for them. At 35, you've got the Colts, maybe the Rams at 36. The Seahawks, I think this kid could go to any team now and be a plug-and-play type guy. 6'5", 249, moves really good. Joe DeGuano kind of compared him to Gronk. The likelihood that he stays until, what are we at, 42 with the Packers, is not coming in super high. But the Packers, as far as the needs on the board, have safety is probably their top concern. Tight end, wide receiver, they effectively knocked out that defensive end with Lucas Van Ness yesterday. If the Michael Mayer kid lasts until 42, I hope the Packers take him. I really do.
I just really see him going to the Colts just right off the bat because obviously you have a rookie quarterback coming in. Tight ends are always a good security blanket. Plus, he also plays at South Bend, which is Notre Dame, which isn't too far from the scouts from Indianapolis. So it just kind of fits all into the same scenario there to me. Yeah,
that would be at 35 to the Colts. Again, second round of the NFL draft going to kick off tonight. Should be a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll have it on downstairs at the bar. Connor, man, I felt bad for him. He had a hell of a time trying to figure the TVs out last night. Fuck. You can tell he's a musician and not a fucking audio video guy because that was painful. But we got your back, Connor. That's what I was there for. I'm going to bring Facebook user up here. I'm not exactly. Jeff Schneider, Tax and Accounting. The Packers may go for Hyatt if he's available. Okay, that's an interesting one. Let me see. Do we have Hyatt in this draft prediction machine? I'm using this really cool feature I found, Jeff, on ESPN, which lets you plug and play a whole bunch of different players' names. I'm not seeing that right now.
Well, I'm looking at the top available in the second round right now. Jalen Hyatt is a wide receiver out of Tennessee.
Okay, there you go.
And he is way down on the list. At the top of the list, we have, according to this ESPN, is Will Levis, Mike Mayer, Joey Porter Jr., and then the safety Bryant Branch out of Alabama, who I'm surprised didn't get drafted yet.
Yeah, well, if Branch is available at 42, take him because the Packers need a safety. They've got to take a safety. If Mayer's available, I'd take him too. The wide receiver position, to be fair, I'm a little bit less concerned with than I was last year because I thought Dobbs and Christian Watson popped.
The progression was great.
It was, kids. And you can find a slot receiver, right? I mean, isn't Cobbles, is he going to still play in the NFL? I mean, what's he going to give you, 4 or 5 games, Jeff? But I mean, hey, he's got really pretty eyes, and he still reminds us of Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
if you can still go out and get a Cole Beasley out there to play slot right receiver, there's plenty of options out there. I'm just going to throw this out there real quick, brother. There's 2 guys from Wisconsin that are still on the board. They're in the top 11 picks. It's Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle, and Joe Tippmann, the center, who are still on the big board that should go in the second round.
Did you say Joe Tippmann?
Tippmann.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was just thinking of tits.
Freudian slip.
Kyle's checking in here. Kyle Hell, as a matter of fact, says Will Levitz's gal is quite fetching.
His mom or his girlfriend?
But he said his gal.
Yeah,
I don't think if he calls his mom, "You're my gal," then
I don't know, man.
All right.
He did play down south.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to take a look over to the lady on his left and say, I agree with you. And I thank you, Kyle, for bringing that back up because that's just kind of fun to look at. It wasn't a great night for Will, of course, but he'll be fine. He'll make some money. And if not, he's got an insurance career. I can see that now. This guy will sell a ton of home insurance. Trempolo Badger checking in up there from perhaps Norwin this morning. Not sure. He says, what's scary with Levitz is he puts fucking mayo in his coffee. What?
News to me on that one, too.
What? He puts mayo in his coffee? That's terrible. That's just no. That's categorically wrong. Hold on. I got to take a break.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Okay, so I had to take a break there. Will Levitz drinks coffee with mayonnaise. What did you find, Matt?
So according to this, some of his biggest quote-unquote red flags, which really wouldn't bother me if I was drafting, is his propensity to make comical videos, including a time he ate a banana with the peel still on it, or the one where he put mayonnaise in his coffee.
Foreman says he puts mayo in his coffee and eats his bananas with a peel on. Jesus Christ. Trempolo Badger says it's all about decision making. Yeah, I can't grade people on their tastes because they're gonna listen. Their tastes are what they are. But Trempolo Badger reminds us this is on video, bro. All right, bud. Well, listen, I'll watch it, and I'm not. Ooh, God, I'm definitely not feeling hungry after hearing that. But I wouldn't use that as a reason not to draft Will Levitz. I just don't think that. In this particular case, and this will be proven true, I can almost guarantee you, as in most NFL drafts, the 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round, one of them maybe will actually turn out to be a franchise guy. Maybe.
It's usually how it works out.
Maybe. Like if you look at the last 16, 20 years of first-round NFL quarterbacks, you will only find a handful of those which are still playing and or have had any significant impact in the NFL. It's a very, very, very fickle process. And every year, this is why I knew that there wouldn't be 4 quarterbacks, 5 in the top 10 of these picks. Every year, these guys get way overvalued because quarterback's the most important position. But they're not going to all be great. That's just not possible. It doesn't work out that way.
For sure.
But they just always get overvalued. And as you get closer and closer to the draft, I mean, remember when Jared Goff and Carson Wentz went 1-2? I mean, this is just a thing now. You have these really average quarterbacks that go 1 or 2 because teams are so desperate, so quarterback needy. And they know that if they nail the quarterback on a rookie contract, the kinds of success that you can have with that. They look at the Mahomes. They look at the Jalen Hurts. They look at the Joe Burrows. They look at the teams that are able to get someplace like a Super Bowl with the rookie contract, the Russell Wilsons of the world. And they're thinking, this is how we have to build it. But I almost guarantee you that one of 3 of these guys in the first round will be maybe a transformational quarterback, maybe a franchise guy. I think it probably more likely than not will be Anthony Richardson with the Colts. I think he has the highest potential to be that guy. Bryce Young, I feel like, will be busted out in this league too small very quickly, 5'10", 204. CJ Stroud plays for Ohio State. I'm sorry to break this to any Ohio State fans, but Dwayne Haskins was better than CJ Stroud was at Ohio State. Threw 50 touchdowns. Stroud threw 41. That doesn't mean anything. It's not college.
I guess where I was going to expand on that even more, it's not even the quarterbacks. You'll be lucky to get 10 Pro Bowlers overall out of these 32 picks. That's how crazy the NFL can be. So
10 out of 32, yep, that'd probably be high.
You'd be crazy if that even happens because not all these kids are going to make it. A lot of smoke and mirrors. It's the NFL draft. A lot of these kids aren't going to be what they hope they are, or they're just going to get injured too. I mean, the life in the NFL is about 3.5 years if you're lucky.
The average career of an NFL veteran or an NFL professional is about 3.5 years. And I think that the league makeup in and of itself, 50% of the league or right thereabouts is undrafted, right? Like 50% of the NFL right now is undrafted. That's just the way the league goes. And priority free agents will be coming off, will be getting signed as soon as the draft is over. So for kids that don't get drafted, they'll be priority free agents. And that's just the nature of the sport. I guess back to the point of the quarterbacks here. And we were talking Will Levis sliding and how many guys are going to get to go. It's just always at the time of the draft, overhype, overvaluation, because the quarterback position, if you do nail it, it changes everything for you. It changes everything. Alex Smith was a very good quarterback and got the Kansas City Chiefs to the playoffs, and they won a lot of football games. He is not even in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes. And that's the difference, is that if you can nail that guy in the first round, you have set your entire franchise up for years to come. Let's talk about another quarterback, though. This guy is a franchise dude, and I am super excited that he got himself paid, because Lamar Jackson, youngest MVP, I believe, in NFL league history, was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, Heisman Trophy winners in college football history, has been nothing short of exemplary when you talk about the kind of guy that you want to be your quarterback. He's a team guy. He's a football guy. He doesn't badmouth his coach. He doesn't go out and make explosive commentary. At least he doesn't, if he's not in a contract situation, about his team in any particular way. He just seems like one of those kinds of players that if you're a coach, and I know John Harbaugh is a coach's coach, you love to work with. The teammates that he's played with seem to all love him as well. This guy just got the record now, Matt, which was set, a couple of weeks ago by Jalen Hurts, the record $260 million. The league average now is his average yearly salary, $52 million a year, $185 million in guaranteed money. So it does look like maybe Lamar and the Ravens were kind of waiting for that Jalen Hurts deal to get done, see where the actual market was at. He didn't get the fully guaranteed deal that he wanted, but this does put him just above Jalen Hurts and gives him a really similar deal structure. I'm happy for the guy. I love his play. I think the Ravens did the right thing. And then they went out and drafted really well another wide receiver, that May kid, I want to say.
No, Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers, that's right. Zay Flowers, great job. Baltimore, well done. Big day for you yesterday. And Lamar Jackson, congrats, bro. You got the bag, dude. You got the bag.
What I was going to go on that is the $185 million guaranteed is awesome. I'm going to stay on the Lamar Jackson, but Patrick Mahomes, you should be calling your agent, because you should be working your deal very soon here. I know that's going to happen. Lamar Jackson got paid. There might be some issues that are going on moving forward. That was brought up supposedly because of how this was handled, him not having an agent, going everything else. But with OBJ and Zay Flowers on that team now, you think that they'd be able to, make up or kiss and make up and move forward.
Well, they've kissed and made up here. I mean, they got the contract signed, $185 million, dude, guaranteed.
There's just supposedly some rumors out there that he's just still a little hurt about how it was handled. So they're just trying to repair that bridge, if you will. But obviously, $185 million goes a long fucking way.
I was going to say, I think no hard feelings is going to be the conversation between the two sides.
You'd hope so,
bro. Come on, it's business, right? And you have to use. I mean, this is a business. And I know that we talked about smoke screens and liars around the draft. Don't you think that there's a bit of gamesmanship when you're trying to, so hard feelings. I mean, if Lamar Jackson's a man, and I do believe that he's a man, then this doesn't bother him.
I think he's holding his hurt feelings, if there are any, a lot better than Aaron Rodgers. I'll just leave it that and move on.
Holding his hurt feelings better than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he didn't have to go to a dark room or go and do all this other crazy shit like you brought up earlier. He just handled it very quietly, went about it as a professional for the most part, and didn't have to make a scene like other quarterbacks have.
Yeah, he did Twitter bomb. He was making his trade demands, saying the Ravens didn't value him. I just, again, believe all that was gamesmanship. And I don't know these guys inside their heads or anything, but I just can't imagine that after getting the largest contract essentially in NFL history as far as average yearly salary goes, and you get $185 million guaranteed, that there would be many hard feelings. If so, get over it. You're a grown-up. This is a business. That's what happens. It's entertainment. It's contracts. It is what it is. People can say some awful things to each other during contract negotiations. And when you sign that contract, that was the goal of the whole thing. Get that contract signed. I would be like, cool, hard feelings are over. We got that piece of paper. Let's go back to work, baby. Got $185 million. I'm just excited for Baltimore because I like the team. I actually like watching the Baltimore Ravens. I find them to be an enjoyable watch. And Lamar Jackson's one of those guys that when he's on TV, and this is why I love the red zone, because you get to see all the teams in some way, shape, or form. When he's on TV, I can't look away. He's one of the most fun players in the NFL for me to watch.
Electric.
Yes, he is. He's electric. He's a playmaker. That's the thing about the quarterback position now that's so different than what it was when we were kids coming up. The quarterback position wasn't about having to be a playmaker. You had those players, John Elway, Randall Cunningham, right? Warren Moon. There were some players that could really make plays. but it wasn't like, well, you have to be an athlete or you have to be some sort of, playmaker in order to be a truly great quarterback. When you look at the quarterbacks now, Patrick Mahomes, freak. Justin Herbert, freak. Jalen Hurts, freak. Joe Burrow, not as much of a freak, but way underrated as far as his athleticism is concerned. Justin Fields to a lesser degree, but still right there in that conversation. These guys are athletic wonderkins, and it just shows you now the NFL, look at Anthony Richardson at 3. The NFL realizes this, and I think Lamar Jackson getting paid, even after all of what we heard, nobody else had interest in him. That was true because the Ravens were going to match whatever contract offer was given to Lamar Jackson by any other team. They weren't going to let this fucking guy walk, right? There was no way in hell they were going to let him walk because, he's had a couple of issues in the postseason. Sure, he's missed some games, but his regular season winning percentage is amazing. Like Lamar Jackson wins like a lot of football games for Baltimore. They would have been stupid to have let him walk. And I think that Odell Beckham Jr., as much as they wanted to deflect on that in his introductory press conference, when him and Lamar Jackson are out at the club the night and having dinner, right? At the night that OBJ signs his contract with the Baltimore Ravens, and he and Lamar Jackson are out there partying and celebrating, and people said, don't read too much into it. It won't change Lamar's mind. Maybe not, but that did make me feel pretty confident that Lamar Jackson knew that sometime in the next couple of weeks he was getting the bag from Baltimore and was like, hey, bro, we're going to have a really fun year. This is going to make a really interesting AFC. Aaron Rodgers, good luck, buddy. Good luck. This is going to be a hard road to hoe.
It's going to be crazy. I just wish the season started tomorrow, to be honest with you. It is what it is.
No, I want it to drag on, dude. I like to be teased and tortured a little bit. If it started tomorrow, I'd have nothing. I've got XFL championship, semifinal championship football this weekend. Got NBA basketball. See, I like to extend it. The older I get, the less I want things right now, the more that I want them in a little while.
For sure.
Because it kind of just, I don't know, the tease out is so much better. And young fellas, let me tell you what, this is a piece of advice. Let the tease be a big part of the play, man. You don't have to just jump right into stuff, okay? They're going to appreciate you. We'll come back in about 50 seconds here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio.
Hello, this is Professor Fission for Nuke and Nuke Light, the world's first nuclear beer. Brewed and nuked in 1956 and recently found in Warehouse 14. How's it still fresh, you may ask? Well, thanks to our friends Cesium-137, Stromium-90, and Plutonium-239, these beers will stay fresh for another 90 years. Not only does Nuke and Nuke Light have 10 times the kick, but you're sure to be a hit at the party because it helps your urine glow in the dark.
Nuke and Nuke Light. Pick up a case today before it melts through your grocer's floor. And a Luther. Yummy.
Nuke Light downstairs. If you guys want to see me over at the Recov back behind the bar today at 11, we've got the spicy and traditional Euro. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Our patio will be open. We've got some incredible beers on tap. Come and see us at the Recov. Get your weekend started off right. If it's been a while since you've been over, today would be a perfect day. Again, going to be 72 degrees. It's already 51-ish degrees, sunny outside right now, not even 9 o'clock. So very excited for today at the Recov. Very excited for the weekend. Matt, the NFL draft will continue round 2 tonight. The rest of the stuff continues over through the weekend.
Today.
Maybe 2 and 3 today.
Yep.
So we'll see that starting, I want to say about 6 o'clock tonight. What time does the draft start tonight?
I'll look that up for you.
Yeah, look that up for us. And while you're doing that, I want to take a look back at our poll question, which is both on our Facebook group page and on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. I'm asking you to grade the Packers selection of defensive end Lucas Van Ness from Iowa with the number 13 pick. Right now, it's still, the consensus is split between BB plus and AA plus. So we have 37.8, nearly 38% of respondents on our Twitter feed giving this a B to B plus grade. 30%, nearly 29.7% give it an A to A plus grade. Then you've got 18.9% straight D/F. Those are the folks that wanted the Packers to go offense, I would assume. 13.5% give it a C or a C plus grade. Again, on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, Facebook, the group page. I know that earlier we had, 90% in that B to B plus range. Any changes there?
It has changed a little bit. The draft does start at 6 p.m. tonight, my friend. We are at B plus is still BB plus is still leading the way with 66%. The CC plus moved up to 16%, AA plus is 12%, and then the D and F is at 6%. Our good buddy Morning Wood checked in on the poll, and he said the dude never started a game at Iowa. Goody said they drafted him as a high character guy. Are we really drafting for character in the first round? Question mark.
Yeah, I that was one of my questions earlier. And Wood, I don't know if you were on with us when we started the show this morning, but I did say that was one thing that was a little bit of an interesting note, a side note. I don't know if it has to do with anything, because when this kid Van Ness was on the field, he popped, I think he had 13 and a half sacks over the last 2 years combined, which isn't, again, amazing, but if you're not a starter, that's pretty good. I want to say he had 19 tackles for loss in the last couple of years as well. So what that means is he can definitely stuff the run a bit and get after a QB. Are we drafting on character in the first round? I would hope not. You definitely want to see a first-round pick, especially at 13, be a player that you can plug in to your system and hopefully get starts like right away. But in the NFL today, maybe character means even more, because if that projects out longer term as far as work ethic goes, that might be something there. Look, it'll be a couple of years before we know. I didn't think Rashawn Gary at 13 was a good pick either. And last year, he actually proved me wrong. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess coming out of this right now, I'm just trying to look up what I can find on him from other people. This just got released. They say that Van Ness possesses violent, heavy hands, so he should be coming off as a rookie rush defender. He's got 34-inch arms, ran a 4.58 40. So, I mean, the kid's got athleticism. That's what they all talked about as a high ceiling. We'll just have to see if he lives up to that athleticism in that ceiling.
Which is the same for everybody, right? You've got potential. You've got grades on paper. We don't know until we know.
They say he fits as a 3-4 end or outside linebacker. So that's probably obviously that's what he did for Iowa, and hopefully he just comes forward and the Packers, BB plus is where I put him, and I think that's where you're at too. So
yeah, I have a B grade. I don't know exactly what he'll be. I mean, we look at what we can look at on tape and what we see. And again, the prediction machine that I was viewing this through the lens of from a gambling perspective yesterday, if it wasn't going to be the tight end from Utah, the prediction machine had Lucas Van Ness being the pick for the Green Bay Packers. Again, defensive end was one of the big needs that they had to actually address here. Then you think about Green Bay picking up 2 selections in the second round and seeing that they're close at 42 and 45. And that gives the Packers, again, a lot of different wiggle room, and players will continue to fall. Like when Will Levis gets taken, and or if Hendon Hooker gets taken in the second round, which I'm not sure happens. I think Hooker could actually be a 3rd, 4th round pick. But when those things happen, it'll readjust the draft board. Then you'll start to see some different things possibly come up for Green Bay that maybe wouldn't have been available before. I do think that guys like Levis, Porter Jr. that you've mentioned will be amongst the first selections in the second round of today's NFL draft. And the teams that are lucky enough to get some of these players are not only going to get players with, like you mentioned, maybe a chip on their shoulder, right? Like Will Levis, but also a hell of a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you're a second round guy, and it's just way more advantageous for the team than it is in the first round. That was true for Jalen Hurts. The Philadelphia Eagles, what a steal, by the way. I know that I'm just diverting here, but what a steal. And that could be the case for a guy like Will Levis or Porter Jr. I think probably has a pretty lock solid chance of being a very good pro, because he was a good quarterback, played at Penn State. He's not just his father's son. I mean, this is a very good player. So I think he'll be off the board early too.
Well, what I was going to go with this is the Packers do have 2 round picks in the second round. They do only have 1 third-round pick, but there are still teams out there like the fucking Detroit Lions that are going to screw this up, and there's going to be talent taken off the board way too soon, or not as good talent taken off the board too soon. People are going to fall. So you never know what's going to happen. The second round and third round for me are almost just as entertaining as the first round overall, just because, like I said earlier, in my opinion, this is where these are the picks that help build the team.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's more the first round only because I know more of the players. As you get into second and third round action, I start to lose connection because they're not as big of names. Right. So that I start to, and then I have to do more research in just who they are and what they can do possibly for a team. But you're right. It's all fun. To me, the NFL draft, at least the first night, maybe even the second night, could be considered like sports holidays.
It's my Christmas.
They're NFL. So fun.
It's my NFL Christmas.
Well, because everything's still a potential. Like the Bears could potentially be good.
And potentially fuck it up too.
Yeah, but potentially be good is what you kind of hope for.
Yep.
I did see Rob Dog checking in. He was mentioning the train derailment. He's like, on a national note, but locally news here, Dave, the train derailment caused news notes around the country.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
There you go. train derailment. I don't think there were any biochemicals or anything on that train. I hope.
There might be some batteries, but the only two fell in the river. I know they're trying to get it figured out. So far, so good. There's a lot of train derailments going on in the United States and all over the world. So I guess it's just something we're getting used to. That's all I got.
I'm sure there's always been a lot of train
derailments. They're just getting a lot more publicity, I guess. There's always been a shit ton of them.
As people have cell phones and instant access to post things. Okay, so the train derailment is a thing, and thank you for that. Again, you've got the poll question. It's on our Facebook group page. It's on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. Give us your grade here of Lucas Van Ness. We'll see the Packers again pick today, 42-45. Draft starts at 6 p.m. I want to say that's Eastern time, so 7
Eastern, 6 our time.
Okay, 7 Eastern, 6 our time.
That's what.
Okay, yep, Foreman's got 7 as well. Okay, we've got it starting 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. our time.
Yep.
Again, Recov will have the TVs on, and we'll make sure that you can see the draft, if in fact that is something that you want to watch. Now, tonight, I will say this. I'm not going to be as interested in the NFL draft. There are 2 games in the NBA playoffs that I'm going to be really dialed into. Sacramento, Golden State, Game 6. LA, Memphis, Game 6. Last night, we saw Boston get the best of Atlanta. That was a pretty fun game. Went down to the wire. Boston ends up winning. Jason Tatum, I thought this was fun. Apologized to the legend, Janet Jackson, because when the Celtics ended up losing to the Hawks, Janet Jackson had her concert postponed a day. So that was something. But I'm looking forward to the Celtics, to the Lakers Grizz tonight, 10:30 or 9:30. I want to say it's going to tip off. And then, of course, Sacramento Golden State. This has been a really fun series. I hope Sacramento pulls it out. I really do, because I want to see Sacramento Golden State go to a game 7. Right? Is it what's the split? Sacramento's up 3-2 right now. So I think Sacramento's up 3-2. So I want to say that tonight, if Sacramento wins, that's the series. What is that series split? I feel like it's Sacramento 3-2. And if that's the case, Golden State needs this win tonight so that they can force a game 7. It is Golden State's up 3-2. Okay.
Golden State's up 3-2.
Right. So let's go Sacramento, because I want a 7-game series. I want the Lakers to win tonight, because then I want the Lakers to go and play a very tired, whichever team is going to be tired, Golden State or Sacramento team. LeBron needs a lot of rest. Lakers need to rest up.
Golden State's tough at home, though, brother, and Fox has that broken finger, I still think, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, he's playing, but of course it will be. That's why I'm looking forward to the games.
Yep, for sure. Sorry, I was caught in between NBA, NHL, and the Major League Baseball thing, so that's why you kind of get. Sorry, you lost me there for a second.
Don't worry about it, buddy. As far as the NHL is concerned, I'm not paying too close attention to the NHL postseason, save for the Vegas Golden Knights, who made easy work of Winnipeg. The Jets are eliminated now. Vegas looked dominant. I was super excited to see him play the Kings when I was in Vegas with you a few weeks back. That was a hell of an experience. So
yeah, the only one that I'm
Vegas.
The only one that I'm really looking forward to is the Bruins Panthers, just because the Bruins had such a fucking great year, to see how they do. And I was going to throw this out there for everybody else. And I know we don't have time to get into too much baseball, but the Brewers play the Angels today, so you get to see your favorite player at least bat against the Brewers today,
who nearly made history yesterday. Came a couple of feet short of hitting for a historic cycle. And didn't you mention that he also pitched?
Yeah, he was
yesterday too?
He was a starting pitcher. He came out, almost hit a home run. Let's see, he struck out 8. Also, personally, he had a single, a double, a triple. He just amazing what he's done. He's the 4th inning, he became human and gave up some runs, but just what Shohei Ohtani's done. And if people have not been paying attention to what you've been laying down on this guy, they should be starting. If he's on TV, go and watch this guy play.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love Shohei Ohtani. He is just so much fun. Well, we've got a lot of fun sports this weekend, don't we? Brewers versus Angels. We'll have the XFL semifinals.
Looking forward to that. NBA
playoff basketball, perhaps, if both of these teams go to a 7th game. And, of course, the NHL postseason, that always gets Matty geeked up. The NFL draft is what you consider to be your Christmas. So,
for sure. And I'm sorry you brought up the XFL.
Cotton, man.
You got the Seattle versus the DC Defenders. That's probably going to be the XFL game of the year, in my opinion. So, there's so much sports going on this weekend as usual. It's going to be fun.
Yes, it is. Recovery Room opens at 11 o'clock. We'll be bartending spicy traditional Euros. Come on down and see us. Should be a really fun day on the patio until Monday from the Trauma Center studio. This is the Sports Carnival. See ya.
Peace.